Okay, today, instead of building the much cuter and, in my opinion, more versatile Gelato building next door, I'm going to build a large and weird-looking arcade, because why not? I started Biscayne Beach, I think that's how it's pronounced, just the other day, and so far all I've done is build 2 massive shops and no rides. So I'm doing good, especially since you don't get ride income in this park, so it's all park entry fee, and you really need rides to draw people to pay that park entry fee. But I really wanted to do a boardwalk theme in the back. I guess you could call it the back, the part of the park that's farthest away from the beach. So I started out with the shop, and I thought an arcade would be nice, but I didn't want to build one of the short, one-story, kind of like an overhang roof sort of, you know, like basic little beach arcade sort of thing. I wanted to build kind of like a casino building, but scaled down so that it would make sense in this kind of environment. I don't know how to describe it. You'll see what it looks like when it's done. That's how, I mean, you saw the thumbnail. I just showed it for like 10 seconds. I do that every time. I spoil the entire build. You'll see it. I don't know if I've ever seen a building like this before. I'm sure they exist, but I don't know what the heck I based this on. I just kind of made it up as I went, and I don't know how well it came out. I wanted to give it these big protruding front thingies. I have no idea what they're called. I don't know the term. I just did a huge time skip, by the way, because I messed around with paths for way too long and it did not work well. I ended up putting a staff room in here because I wanted the staff path to go up and come out the other side, so it looks like it's got fire escape on one side, but that didn't work, so I ended up changing that. But I keep the staff room on the inside raised up anyway. That employee path on the left there, it just doesn't work, so I ended up changing it. These column things, I wasn't really sure what to do between them, because obviously it looks really weird if you just leave it blank. But a roof piece used as an awning seems kind of nice. If my voice sounds weird, it's because I like literally just woke up. Well, no, I woke up like an hour ago, but then I laid in my bed for an hour looking at Instagram. So this is what my voice sounds like when I wake up. It's kind of deeper. It's probably harder to understand. I wanted to get this video out of the way. I probably should have drank some water before I started this too. I didn't. I'm such a professional, you guys. I really need to learn how to do more color variations. I think I did a good job on the gelato shop, but on this building I ended up going back to using like 2 colors and like a black accent for like the roof and stuff, and that's not. I need to just do more colors. Like, I was watching Silverette's videos again, and he's just so good at doing tons of colors and making them look nice together. I can't figure out how to do that. I always pick a scheme for each building and stick to it, and it's hard to break apart from it because I don't think I tend to build buildings that look like, I don't know, very realistic. Like my Taco Bell was kind of realistic. It looked like a Taco Bell, and the modern whatever it was building was realistic, but I still went with very simple color schemes with them. I ended up changing the modern one and it looked a little better afterwards, but that's one thing I really want to get better at. You'd think by now, building in all these games, The Sims and Roller Coaster Tycoon and stuff for years, I'd have figured it out. But that's, I don't know, it's always hard for me. This here, I like this little sign thing that I did. One thing that I really wish Parkitect had was posters and wall signs and stuff. That's actually one thing that Planet Coaster manages to do much, much better than Parkitect is wall decor. Posters, signs, lettering, that sort of thing. You kind of have to make your own in Parkitect, and there aren't really many options to do it. At least not with mods. So I ended up making this little rainbow pattern out of the what is it, first aid shop sign. It doesn't really represent anything, it's just, it looks nice to have something there, and the rainbow pattern kind of makes the colors look a little less repetitive. And I was experimenting with these brick detail things here just to make these pillars look a little less plain. And of course I go back to using 2 colors and it looks really stupid. So luckily I undo that, and I make it a little darker to match the red of the pillars, so it's not as obvious, but you can still see that there's detail on the corners there. I'm looking through the detail pieces here, trying to find something to put on here because there's just no detail on the front. I like using clocks. I only just realized last night, the clocks reflect the real life time on your computer. So the clocks right now, I don't know what they say. I can't see them close enough in Adobe Premiere while I'm recording over the video. But when I was playing last night, it was 11:20, and guess what time the clock said? You're not going to believe it. They said 11:20. It was crazy. I was like, holy crap. That's amazing. I did these little front things, and I didn't really have a plan for them. Little circles. And then I was going to just kind of put some sort of detail on the top of the pillars. Because I was tired of using flags as an extra detail just to give things more depth and make them look a little fancier. But then I realized I could do buttons and joysticks. So it's like arcade machine buttons on top. And I used the colors from the rainbow to give it a little more visual variety versus red joysticks and buttons and blue, which is like traditional. And I thought, wait a minute, I can make the whole thing look like kind of an arcade machine embedded into a building. So I struggle for 10 minutes here trying to figure out what color the coin going into the coin slot should be. And it took me way too long to remember that arcades don't use quarters much. I mean, they do, but a lot of them use tokens. So I made it a color of a token. It ends up being gold. And I also spent forever trying to figure out what to do with the coin slot. If I had remembered that this part was here, I would have cut it out because nothing's happening. I'm just picking colors over and over and over. I wanted to do like the coin return buttons, the long orange coin return buttons on either side, but there's really nothing I could use for that, so I end up using the orb lamp. It doesn't really look right because like maybe I can use it as a button, or maybe I can use it as a joystick, but no. So I put it here and it doesn't really look like what I want it to because those buttons never look like that, but it's got the orange glow to it, so it works alright. And then I just end up using those lights later as details on the other side, but it adds some depth and variety to the front of the building, so it works out. And then you always got to make these darker or else they're way too bright and washed out. And then in daytime, the dark orange almost matches the pillars, so it works anyway. Always gotta have borders. Buildings look weird in this game if they're just touching the ground with no borders, so we do a lot of border work. I did make that path in the front of the arcade. Took me probably 45 minutes to figure out what I wanted to do with it. It's only a couple pieces placed repeatedly with a blueprint that extends about halfway through the park, and just figuring out the design of it was a lot of work because the wooden path, I think it looks stupid when it's doubled up. It's just got really dumb shapes to it. I want it to look the way it does now, where it's parallel planks all the way across, but you can't do that without putting fences between it, so I had to put fences between it. And then it was stupid to have fences just sitting there, so I had to put stuff on top of the fences instead of just having a little narrow gap between the paths every 3 tiles to make it look the way I wanted it to. It ends up, I think it looks nice. It's not really related to the thing that I'm building right now, but it looks nice and you're looking at it. Over here, I wanted to make like a fire escape, but it doesn't really work because the paths are too thick. If they were half tile paths, that would be amazing, but I can't do that. So I end up making it an addition to the side of the building, and it ends up making it look less like a rectangle, which is pretty important. I think that's one of the first things you learn when you really start to try and figure out how to build in games like this, is you can't just do boxes. Boxes don't look realistic. Sometimes they do, but there's always little things on buildings that make them not so boxy. And I mean, it's still boxy because it's still 2 rectangles, but it makes it look better. It doesn't look as plain, having something jutting off the side of it. And initially I've got the vending machine under there, but because vending machines are stocked from the front, I end up putting it where you can't put a path in the next slot and putting a different shop there. That way there's 2 shops and it looks kind of like a theme park. I don't know what they're called. shops that are all next to each other, and they've got the little awning over the front that they usually have. I don't know. I played with this other path over here, trying to hide it and make it look natural, but it just doesn't work, so I'm like, okay, screw this. And I make it go in the back, because I liked having that little alleyway next to the gelato shop. So we get rid of that, and keep the little fence and the hanging string lights. I've been waiting for a more urban park for a while, because I like doing little alleyways and shops really close to each other, and making more traditional buildings. So, I mean, this building isn't traditional at all, but you know what I mean. So I'm excited because this park kind of lets me do that. Another time skip. I don't know what I skipped, but it wasn't interesting to look at. And then on the side here, there just wasn't enough going on. It was plain, and I didn't want to put windows. A building like this doesn't have windows. It's just walls. You don't need to see outside from the inside, and you don't want light coming in to an arcade anyway, because there's screens that have glare on them. So I do kind of a not based. I mean, it's based on something, but not copying any specific design. Sort of Space Invader here. Arcades, modern arcades at least, don't tend to be about that kind of game, but Space Invaders is kind of ubiquitous, I guess. I think that's the word. Normally when I use a word and I'm not sure and I look it up, it was the right word, so hopefully that's the right word. But Space Invaders is kind of ubiquitous, and it just kind of represents arcade gaming. So I thought it would be cool to have one built on the side here, and it's my first time using shapes to make pixel art. I mean, it's not complicated pixel art, but it was still cool to do. And then I'm like, what the heck color should I make it? Can you guess what color I make it? Wow, I use the same color as the rest of the build. I'm so creative. Yay. So the staff in this park so far, I've got them completely up against the back. There's like a literal backstage area here, which I like a lot. Some of the other park layouts you can't really do something like that, but this one I'm going to keep it all in the back, and the shops will all be along the back side. I was a little disappointed to see that you can't build over the beach, or terraform, or get rid of the fences. So there's just, excuse me, I always burp in every freaking video. So there's just a chain link fence out in the front of the park facing the beach, which just looks ugly. I really wish you could replace that. On the tops of buildings, oh, I did a huge time skip there. I like to do like air vents and stuff on the tops of buildings, and I also spent way too long trying to figure out how to build an entrance on top for maintenance, so I skipped that completely. And then I just do the detail work on the side here, the side roof. And you can see I've replaced the shops down there and redid the awnings. So there's a custom shop and a vending machine, and then on the inside there's a bathroom. And I end up, in my playthrough, putting a motion simulator in there, and that's actually what's in the workshop blueprint. So if you don't have the motion simulator, I don't think it'll let you build it. Or does, I don't know if Parkitect lets you build things without the things that are missing. But it does have the motion simulator in there, and you do have to research it for this scenario. Which luckily I researched it immediately. I researched it while I was finalizing this building, actually. So I do put a motion simulator in the bottom there, and that encourages people to actually go in there and have something to do. I do also leave the staff room because I needed a place to have a staff room anyway, and I might as well stick it inside this large building that's otherwise not doing anything. These front parts looked a little empty, so I stick a plant in there, and they look a little less empty. And then I go too far and they look too full, so I don't keep that. And that's about it. I'm going to show you, you can download in the description, this arcade ambience soundscape that I found. It just kind of gives the motion simulator, well, any ride. You can put it on any ride. Just put it in your My Music folder and the Parkitect folder in the documents. And when you go into the ride options, it'll be in the music. And it just kind of gives it a little more realism when you can hear these arcade noises from the outside. They're very generic and stereotypical arcade noises. And I just wanted to do a little quick view of the Gelato shop because I'm going to be uploading that too and putting it in the description. I kind of wish I had done a speed build of that, but it's okay. It's cute. You can buy it. Or you can download it for free. You don't have to buy it. I don't know why I said buy it. do a little shot of it at night. I'm happy with it. It's not my most complicated or impressive build, but it does what I wanted it to do, and it fits into the park. So, yeah. Classic ending. Amazing.